we're leading up to WrestleMania, which I'm not watching any modern wrestling. So I thought, what I was going to do? I was going to go back and I was going to watch some 84 WWF. And I was going to just see like what happened in like January of 84, February of 84, March of 84, and kind of get a vibe for what the like first real salvos across the bow were when Vince went national and like brought Hogan in and like really unleashed Hogan with the world title. Because like I've seen it, I know the highlights. I don't know the week to week. But when you go on YouTube nowadays, you can like look up the week to week. You can watch entire shows from this week in January, this week in January, this week in January, and see it cobbled together because you don't get each show every week. Sometimes it's not there. But for the most part, you get a majority of the major 2 or 3 WWF shows running on a week-to-week basis for content, right? So I went back and I watched January of 84, which is Sheik beating Backlund and taking the world title from Backlund early in the month.
Who's Backlund again?
Bob Backlund was the champ for 4 years before.
You said Bob Backlund.
Right. So Sheik beating Backlund, and then Hogan coming into the promotion. Piper's already there with like a Dr. D, David Schultz, and Paul Orndorff's there. Tito's there dealing with Morocco. There's not much else going on. Mr. Fuji's teamed up with Tiger Chen Lee, I think it is. It's not anything crazy exciting going on. Like it's a pretty.
How many guys did you just list right there that are not with us?
Well, I mean, Fuji's gone from old age. Piper again, old. I would say old age, hard living old age. Mm-hmm. Orndorff's gone. Dr. D, David Schultz is still around. Hogan's still around.
Yeah. I didn't know Dr. D's still around.
Yeah, Dr. D's still around. Backlund's still around.
Okay.
Backlund's, yeah. Gets worse as time goes on in the 80s a little bit. 84 is not near as bad. Because you catch guys kind of at the end of their careers that like worked through the 70s and stuff. And that wasn't as bad. Drinking and stuff.
Right.
Not as bad. Backlund, totally clean living. Backlund not even on a cigarette or anything. So a couple of angles going on, a couple of new guys coming in. You can see there was like a transition. Mean Gene was like pretty fresh in, only like a month or two.
Babyface Mean Gene,
coming from the AWA, right? Well, not fresh in and like hadn't been in wrestling.
Oh,
he did
WWE.
13 years in the AWA, right? Or 12 years in the AWA. It's like fresh into the WWF. It's like there started to be kind of that like circling of the wagons from Vince McMahon as he bought the territory from his dad and was like making these inroads to going national. Because obviously before this point in 1984, any idea of like national cable TV was pretty slim to none. Then all of a sudden in the early 80s, you got to think, you started to get the proliferation of HBO, of TBS, of a couple of, right? So there was a couple of stations, not a lot. Like there wasn't even a Fox network until like 1988.
Right.
It's like 1983, 82, when you start getting HBO, it's like actual like premium cable channels, things you can pay extra for, but go national, that are shot from one place, have syndicated programming and have some original programming, but like, don't just go to Miami, don't just go to New York, don't just go to Miami and New York, but go to Des Moines, go to LA, go to, normally guys were on regional cable stations. You shot it in one place, you had guys go out on the bicycle with it, take it to the nearest towns that were all gonna play it over the next week or whatever, and just repeat that cycle as your territory shot television, right? But when you went national, now you all of a sudden had the ability to, and so when Vince realized that, and Vern kind of fought against it, and Crockett not so much in the Mid-Atlantic, didn't maybe fight against it, but did maybe, and that's what I wanted to talk about, I guess. This is what I kind of learned from this. So I watched January, I watched most of the TV shows on January. Yeah. I watched February, watched most of the TV shows out of the February, watched March, and fast forwarded through stuff, like didn't watch jobber squash matches, like just watched a quick finish. So out of a 3-minute segment, you might watch 10 seconds or whatever in the timeline, right? And skip through, watched a few of the promos, watched a couple of the regional insert promos from wherever this was like recorded from.
How are they?
They were excellent. I love that stuff. I love that stuff. They didn't have the commercials for like the actual like the carpet companies and the window, but they had these guys going like, we're coming back to St. Paul, you know, like
Saying where they're coming next week.
February the 9th, and when we get there, you know, such and such, Iron Sheik, Sheik and Slaughter had a bit of a thing going on during this, after Sheik lost the title to Hogan at the end of January, because then Hogan moved on to Orndorff. But for the most part, Hogan wasn't near as refined. Hogan, when you look at Hogan in those early days of '84, which there wasn't the big super shows, there wasn't the WWE like across major networks on NBC doing Saturday night's main event.
It was just more of a big.
It was just a big. No. He actually was trying. He just wasn't as refined. He was more campy than Hogan actually is. Hogan had some sort of an edge he turned on as Hogan got a little more refined in the Hulk Hogan character. That might not come across when he tries to play other characters like acting and stuff, but as the Hulk Hogan character, he knows like a good range to be in where like there's an aggressive like realism still that can kind of come out of Hogan in the moment. But like early on, you could see that he was still like, he was getting his feet wet. He wasn't too sure. And the rest of the roster, while Piper was fine, Orndorff was fine, Sheik's fine, there was nothing really else going on. It's amazing when you look at that and you realize that coming off a Starrcade in late 1983, so like 2 months removed from what I'm talking about, late 83, the WCW, what became the WCW, Jim Crockett's Mid-Atlantic, right, the NWA Mid-Atlantic, couldn't become the #1 promotion. But because they brought Dusty in, they let Dusty book the Starrcade, and then Dusty rearranged all the deck chairs, and the 1984 schedule for even a little bit of early 85, but 1984 for sure for Mid-Atlantic is basically just an absolute washing of the hands, as like it's a new direction, a new creative like grouping.
New generation.
So Hogan wasn't that good. Like I'm not to the point yet. Like I said, I watched some recap shows. I watched some January, February, and March. So I'm gonna watch now. I'm gonna go watch April, May, and June at some point here in the next couple of days.
Okay.
And I'm gonna see how this, because we know by the time we get to,
you're gonna know the tipping point where
we know by the time we get to March of '85, when he's Hulk Hogan, Mr. T going into WrestleMania 1,
ooh, yeah,
he's doing the Hulk Hogan gimmick at full fucking speed.
Right.
So
where's the
we're not too, and it's not that he's not doing it. He's doing it, and you can see that it's there, but he's not commanding that Hulk Hogan.
When do you turn up to 11 to Hulk Hogan?
And he's trying. You could, so like there's some, Backlund's doing this boo-hoo and bullshit. He lost the belt. It's a bad look.
Oh, he's playing like a victim.
Because he's such a a goody-goody that he didn't want to do anything too salacious, I imagine. So he was just like, I'm going to do the Tito in Morocco is not interesting for the Intercontinental title. No. So early 84. So do your AEW's coming here?
I did not hear that.
Yeah, AEW's coming here in July.
What?
Yeah, good. AEW's good.
No doubt.
I heard prices right now are like pretty steep.
Really?
But I also heard that they've been to Ontario more than once, and that like will come day of, if you get tickets, that they go down considerably, because then they're trying to sell them to get people in there just to even try to break even or recoup a bit of money, right?
It's just like pre-orders are going to be a little pricier.
Right now, anything up till the day of, where you just are taking what's left.
Right. Get anywhere spots. Listen, that's pretty cool. AEW's coming here? I mean, did they have a roster out yet? Did you see one at all? Or?
No, it's for July, so like who fucking knows?
Oh, I guess, yeah.
Guys, there could be tons of shit that goes on.
Still like 6 months.
What do you think of AEW? Like, we watched it for a while. You know what I do like? I'll give it this.
Okay? I imagine they're going to be at the.
I like a few things. I like two things. Two things I really like about AEW. Then we'll talk about if we even like AEW the product at all, or if we know anything about what they're doing right now, which I actually don't. Two things to do, like Tony Khan using Dad's money, using his inheritance, whatever it happens to be. Things I do like AEW, giving guys in the wrestling industry jobs because I like wrestling. Mm-hmm. So you're giving guys jobs. That's always good. Guys, the more wrestling, the better chance guys have to work on a nightly basis. The better guys get refined, the better wrestling product we ultimately get in the long run, and the more guys there are to pass the art of professional wrestling on to the next generation at the top end level, with those hours in front of major stages, in front of big audiences, with lots on the line. That's what you need, because I love the art of professional wrestling. And 2, it gives pro wrestling some variety. I like that too, that it gives guys not only just another place to work, but it gives the viewer a chance to kind of have, people like picking sides. Let's face it, people like having something to root for and to root against. WWE's always been the big bad mothership in the professional wrestling industry since, even in the 90s, when the WWE was going through tough times, and then WCW came out with the NWO and jumped in front of the WWF and did 86 or 83 or whatever it was weeks in front of the WWF. There was no real time in there where the WWF was kind of looked as a small guy. Even though WWF was struggling financially during a lot of that time period, it's because they're looked at as kind of the big bad guy on the block who came in and took over the wrestling business. And so they don't get that ability to be looked at as the underdog. AEW, despite being backed by billionaires, has that underdog appeal.
It does, no, it definitely does.
Gives people a chance, it gives viewers something to root for and to root against. And so guys get a chance to work, viewers get a chance to consume another wrestling product.
Besides AEW and WWE, is there another wrestling thing going on there?
Actually, it's funny you say it, because one of the other things I was going to say is that because AEW now owns Ring of Honor and they own Impact, but those guys run as kind of separate promotions, it gives those promotions, which also employ other wrestlers and give you alternate storylines to even the WWE and AEW storylines. You get the ROH storylines, the Impact Wrestling storylines. You get a lot of variety, so it gives them a bit of a platform, because you know that as they come through Edmonton, they come through Calgary, Vancouver, Winnipeg, they're on TV somewhere, they're here, there. They're going to be exposing these audiences to 1 or 2 guys from the ROH roster, 1 or 2 guys from the Impact roster, and making sure they let them tout that banner and then go back and have their own TV show that has nothing to do with AEW, Dynamite, or what's the other one?
All Out?
No, what's the other TV show? There's Dynamite, and then there's something.
Well, it was on after Dynamite.
Something on Saturdays.
Yeah. We watched it like 100 times.
Too many things.
But I got a question for you, just strictly opinion.
Give it to me, Daddy.
Give me your opinion on this.
Give it to me, Daddy!
Now, do you think this would hurt their brand?
Oh, it hurts so much, Daddy!
if they had like a crossover.
What do you mean?
AEW and WWE had crossover. Had wrestlers fight other wrestlers.
Nothing to help.
No, you don't think it would help at all?
Nothing to help.
Wouldn't promote.
Won't promote anything. Does more hot shot.
I was thinking, would you do more damage to the brand?
Long run, yeah. Does more damage.
Like tournament stuff.
Burns it all down. Gives everybody everything way too now. You don't need it all now. You can get it as guys' contracts come up and they bounce back and forth, and you don't need.
So you never think it should be like a dojo, like martial arts school against martial arts school?
Bad idea.
Bad idea.
Bad idea.
Maybe good in a movie verse though.
This is drama. You build drama scene to scene. So to do that, you need things you can build drama from. Things that have people thinking about this, thinking about that. It's not boxing where one should fight 2 in the rankings, because you get the drama from the best and the best. This, it's perceived best. It's a conception. It's still written out. It's still formulated for you with like good acrobatics, with amazing athletics, with on-the-fly acting and the ability to read the room and adjust to the audience and do a multitude of things with amazing physical demands night after night. But you're still, you don't want to give it all to them. You want one guy jumping ship from one company to the other once a year to be a major thing.
Right.
But if they all come together and 12 guys from each company fight each other, you burn all 12 of those things. Because now when everything's big, nothing's big. Wrestling doesn't need that. It needs the separation that it has. That's what I'm saying. That's
so the only cross promotion that should happen
I like about AEW.
Go from one place to another.
I hate AEW and the idea that it's not entertaining, because I want it to be entertaining. Because I started by buying the pay-per-views before it started, thinking that maybe this would be different. That maybe what I'd seen of the Young Bucks and Omega and stuff was going to be You know, like,
some of it's pretty cool, but some of the gimmicks, like Orange Cassidy's gimmick, I don't really like that.
their gimmicks are terrible.
So
They have some
terrible.
terrible gimmicks in AEW.
But some of their gimmicks are comedic. I find I can get past their being so horrible.
I mean, you're
that they're
talking about
comedic.
a year ago now.
Yeah, like we haven't. I haven't watched.
It's been a while.
It has been, but back then I could overlook their terrible gimmicks.
Then why didn't you?
comedic.
Why did you stop watching if you could overlook it?
This is taking up too much
It
time.
was bunk for the most
It
part.
really was, because once you see
And it's not that good pro wrestling isn't. It's
No.
like I spent an hour and a half, 2 hours last night skimming through 3 months of WWE 84. And it was rough. It was rough when you consider that when you look at the 83 Starrcade and you look at where Crockett Promotion was coming into the new year of 84, they should have been able to take over. Maybe not cable-wise, maybe not promotion size-wise, but as far as content quality-wise, they should have been the number one content producer in the wrestling world at that. But then they started to restructure because they brought Dusty in. Dusty wanted his guys, didn't want a lot of the guys that were there already. A lot of guys came in on favors, a little borrowed stuff. Guys left, went to Vince. But Vince's product was not that good. You go watch February of 84 in the WWF, it's not that good. And I only got to imagine by the time I get to February of 85, it's cooking.
Yeah.
Because fucking March, like I said, March, April 85 is phenomenal wrestling.
No, it is.
So we're a year off only. But there was nothing going on in Mid-Atlantic. They had Starrcade and fell off, and they literally could have had Starrcade. And if they would have just kind of stayed course somehow, kept a few of the guys around, like obviously Piper probably being one of them, but they might have entered the cable eras, maybe not being the company with the most cable exposure or having the most things under their umbrella, because they maybe didn't jump the gun in regards to consolidating like Vince did, like really putting a bunch of regions together and saying, fuck it, it's all under my brand. These aren't individual territories anymore. The Mid-Atlantic was still kind of playing the NWA game, was still kind of a regional territory that was working in concert and conglomeration with other territories and not really stepping on toes. But they might have still had the better wrestling. But in this case, they aborted even having the good wrestling. And
well, yeah, like AEW, I think the number one downfall is their wrestling is unbelievable.
yeah,
It is. You have these twinks, these skinny guys just beating these monsters up, and it's like
twinks, for
twinks.
real.
The what gave like old WWF wrestling things is you got two kaijus.
Don't Google that.
Go in. Well, yeah, don't Google
Don't Google that.
No, you got two big kaiju monsters enter the ring, and pound for pound, it looks like they hurt. You got this little guy hitting this
Twinks.
big monster,
Twinks.
twink, and it's like that's a little bitch slap.
Never really thought. I mean, we've used that term for other things. I've never really thought of that term in regards to this, but it fits.
It does fit,
It fits.
and that's why
'Cause that's what a lot of these Orange Cassidy, Jungle Boy,
right. That's
a lot of them just
what
look
was
like
that dude?
twinks.
Alonzo or Alaflo?
Angelico.
Angelico, right? Like it's that bad when you don't believe that.
That was
guy
a good
getting
dance. That was excellent. For everybody out there that got that, that was good.
Give it.
Clip that, right.
Oh, hey.
I want to be able to do that in my phone.
Did you know you clip stuff in your photos in your phone? The S20 on the S23 Ultra?
I'm going to do it to that dance. That was great. Yeah, it was good when you did it the moment.
Yeah.
So no, I know what you mean. It's fake. It looks fake as fuck.
It's not sellable. You can't sell that shit.